Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Hello Gamer Nation and welcome to Season 2 of the Dice Pool Podcast live play series. I'm your host Ian Houlihan, better known as GM Hooli. This is an actual play podcast using the GeneSys Role Playing Game by Fantasy Flight Games. This season, the adventures will be set in the fantasy magepunk setting of Night's Edge, a setting developed by the hosts of the Dice Pool Podcast. If you wish to learn more about this setting, we recommend listening to episodes 6 and 7 of the Dice Pool Podcast, where we create and develop the world on the show. The setting is best described as dystopian, set on Lux and Tenebris, a world ravaged by a cataclysm that shattered the world, shrouding the planet in complete darkness and forcing its inhabitants to flee to the skies. Humankind is on the brink of extinction, and so the humans, both attuned and unblessed, must band together with their former foes, the werewolves, and those cursed from the horrors of the world below, the shade-touched, in order to survive. Living in gigantic floating city-states above the clouds, these unlikely allies use magic and airships to fight the creatures of the shadows on the Night's Edge. This is the first part of a multi-part story arc, so stay tuned to social media for future announcements by searching Dice Pool Podcast or visiting us on the web at thedicepoolpodcast.com. In our previous episode, we introduced you to the heroes of our story who form the crew of the lightning trawler Calamity. In this episode, we will commence our voyage on the wind currents above Night's Edge, so join us for Chapter 1 of Night's Edge, Voyage of Calamity. Alright guys, so welcome back to Night's Edge, the Voyage of Calamity. I'll get everybody to introduce their characters. Mike.
I'm GM Huz, and I'm playing Artimis Gristlemore, the party's werewolf berserker, and he's a captain of the Calamity.
Cool. Martin.
Well, I'm GM Flano, and I'm playing Jerrico Runetide, an attuned human spell slinger working out of the University of Lakeport.
Cool. Caitlin.
I'm GM Caitlin, and I'm playing Jonah Bonnie, who is the ship's shade-touched sneaky sneak, who has been struck by lightning more than once. So she's a very unlucky character on the ship.
Madeline.
Hi, I'm PC Madeline, or Maddie. I will be playing Anora Steelclaw, and I am an attuned human who is blind and also the pilot of this ship.
Cool. Okay, so the Calamity is the name of the ship upon which the campaign is named. Now, the ship is a lightning trawler. It is used to siphon lightning from storms, arcane storms, which occur sort of near the border of the Night's Edge, and you collect that lightning and then take it back to each of the cities so that they can power some of their relics, and also because lightning, the arcane lightning which is siphoned, is used to power magic devices.
Now, it is a dangerous profession because in order to harness this lightning, as GM Hooli just said, it involves going down into the clouds. The lightning's best found in that area just before the darkness, so you have to sort of skirt that horror zone, essentially, where there's a living hell just below you, so falling off the deck of this airship isn't an option.
No, because you will plummet through the clouds and to the shattered world below.
Enjoy your hellscape.
Yeah. All right, so our adventure basically is going to start is that you've been given a job to go out and collect lightning, specifically for a foundation mechanic. Now, a foundation mechanic is someone who looks after and maintains some of these large relics which are contained in each of the floating cities. And nobody really knows much about them other than the fact that they are highly magical, and the only sort of idea that they have that something if it's not maintained correctly, was what happened to Theresa, which was the only city that has fallen below the cloud lines. Foundation mechanics, they look after and maintain these monoliths, which are situated, as I said, in the middle of these floating cities. The one for Lakesport is actually in the middle of this lake, because the whole of the city is it has a lake at its centre. And then the city is basically built around that, and then it has the docks on the outside of the edge of these floating pieces of rock. So our adventure starts is that you've headed out into an arcane maelstrom, which is been reported to have breached the Night's Edge and is to the east of Lakesport. You can see in the distance a maelstrom of night black clouds. The edges of the cloud banks are difficult to differentiate and obviously navigate. However, purple and red lightning bouncing between the clouds briefly here and there lights up the lining of each bank, giving the navigator a better idea of where to steer the ship, and obviously for the captain, where the best lightning is going to be obtained from. You know that the purple lightning is the type of lightning that gains the most benefit. It gains the most money. You think that that's definitely what you're looking for. Captain Artimis, you've been doing this for long enough that you know that this is a true lightning sign. That you know that this is quite unusual and quite dangerous.
So we're currently still above the clouds?
At this point, you are basically still above the clouds.
So when we see those maelstroms, they're a bit of a tell that if we dive down below that, we're going to find the best sort of lightning.
Absolutely.
It's money.
So yes, you do need to, in this circumstance, you are going to need to fly down below the clouds. And secondly, you know that you're going to have to get into the maelstrom to be able to get the best quality of lightning. You're probably, I'd say, extreme range at this point, away from the maelstrom. So, what is everybody doing?
Right. Well, I imagine at this point Artemis is marching up and down the deck, barking out orders to the crew to get the rigging all set and ready to go to dive down to the maelstrom. All the crew, they've done this before, and they know that they have to be, everything has to be shipshape before we go down into the maelstrom. Otherwise, all it takes is one loose thread, and the whole operation becomes unraveled. And so he's marching up and down the deck. I imagine with his arms behind his back, with his big dark leather coat flapping in the wind as we set fast sail towards the maelstrom.
Cool. All right, so I'll get each of you to make a perception roll. The difficulty for the check is going to be 2 purple dice. However, due to the maelstrom's ferocity and the wind whipping at your face, you can add 2 setback dice to the check.
I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball at you.
Oh, yes.
Could I do not a perception check? Because I imagine Artemis's focus is not so much on the surroundings, but more how the crew is working efficiently. Could I do a leadership check and possibly give everyone, depending on the result I roll, a boost to everyone's perception checks?
I would allow that, definitely.
Right. So I'll do my roll first. Get that away
absolutely.
And see how we can filter out perception the boost rolls.
I have a question. I wouldn't be on deck because I'm piloting, aren't I?
That would be correct, yes.
So I wouldn't have to make this roll.
Except you, because you're in the sensory deprivation chamber, your senses are extended through the ship.
Yeah.
So you can still see outside perfectly.
Except the fact that I'm blind.
No. When you're
seeing
the
through
ship, you're seeing through the ship.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you wouldn't make a perception roll as such. It may be another particular check. I'd even allow...
Probably vigilance.
Vigilance? Yeah, absolutely.
What's the difficulty for this leadership check?
Okay, so the difficulty for this leadership check is going to be, I'd suggest, because there aren't 25 crew, I know that you're normally used to these crews, so you can have a boost die because you are the captain after all. But it's going to be 3 purple die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, my first roll of the story, and it was a typical GM Huz roll of almost nil, but I did get an advantage. Okay. So I'm directing the crew, but perhaps they're a little bit shaky, a little bit nervous because they are about to dive into the maelstrom. That's always an unsettling thing, and I can tell they're not working as efficient as they should be. So I'm going to spend a lot of my time and effort focusing on them a whole lot more. But I did get an advantage. So what I'm going to do with that? It's pretty simple. I'm going to pass boost down the line to the next player, and we can narratively represent that to me giving a command or an order that has given someone a bit of an advantage when they make their next check.
Okay, cool. All right. Who would like to make their next check?
So Bonnie is actually going to be up in the crow's nest where she likes to stay and where she likes to spend most of her time. Mm-hmm. So she's going to be up there, looking out. And because she is shade touched, she is going to remove 2 of those setback because this is her environment. She doesn't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff.
Because you are up in the crow's nest, you can definitely have a boost die for that as well.
Oh, fantastic.
And as you're the next roller, it's a boost from...
Ooh, shiny.
Yep.
What's the boosts? So I got 1 straight success.
Okay, cool. All right. So you do notice through the clouds, through these deep dark clouds, and you can pretty much see through. You notice these 4 or 5 shapes which are within this maelstrom.
Do I recognise what those shapes are?
Do they look a bit too far out at this point?
Okay, as soon as I actually see those shapes in the clouds, I'm going to communicate with Anora and be like, let the captain know we've got something in those clouds down below.
And Anora is capable of doing that, even though she's piloting the ship down in the belly of the craft, because when she's attuned to the ship is an extension to her body. So she can hear and see everything that's going on the ship, including Bonnie up in the crow's nest.
And she can make herself heard at any point throughout the ship as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when you speak, you obviously speak in a way that people just hear it in their mind.
It resonates.
Yeah. So sort of like a hum through the ship and then through the person I'm communicating with.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Who'd like to roll next?
I'll have a go at this.
Okay.
So, for me, my character's on the deck, looking out at the clouds and the lightning, with a notebook in hand and a quill in the other, furiously taking notes. And he's focused on the cloud, so he's going to make a roll. But he also ignores those setback because he adjusts his glasses and moves a couple of lenses into place in order to increase the acuity of his vision.
Cool. Awesome.
3 successes and an advantage.
Okay. Very good.
So he's very focused
Absolutely.
on what's happening.
All right. So what you see as the ship starts getting closer and closer as Artemis is ordering the crew to prepare. So you're on the deck with your notepad out and looking out towards the horizon, looking into the maelstrom itself. You notice these 5 shapes that are sort of flying within the maelstrom. And they look as though that they have almost bat-like wings.
Captain? There's something in the clouds that it's flapping wings and darkness. I think we should be worried.
Would Artemis recognise what they are?
Possibly. Okay. But at the moment, you're a little bit busy dealing with the crew.
This is true.
All right, so, Anora, what would you like to be doing at this point, since you're one with the ship currently?
Well, I'm basically just piloting it.
Okay. But you are aware of everything around you as well, so...
Maybe I sense the creature, or...
Do you have a knowledge skill?
I have education.
Okay.
Okay, that's probably not the right skill, but...
Or fractured land.
There you go. Yes. That is definitely what we're looking for.
Because I have a skill in that.
Nice. You could try and identify these creatures.
Absolutely. Now, they're a little bit far away, so they might be a little bit out of range for you at the moment. But you can get a bit of a sense of an idea, and you can obviously sense other people in the ship that have, particularly Jerrico, who has seen this.
I did get an advantage on my roll. Can I give her a boost for my description.
I would certainly allow that, definitely.
Yay. Okay, so
Right, so the difficulty for this is going to be 3 purple dice. But you are a bit of a distance away, but you are one with the ship, so you can have a setback die for that as well.
I would like to spend a story point because these unknown creatures at the moment, we don't know what they are, and I want to protect my crew, so I want to upgrade that check
Perfect.
for that reason.
So your drive to protect your crew has given you the ability to be able to flip that point. Awesome. Do it.
Okay. I have rolled 2 successes, 3 threats, and 2 triumphs.
Oh my god. First roll for your game in this session, and you have 2 triumphs. That
Classic Mads.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so you've succeeded at the check. So you can, as you've stretched out with your senses, you can see these 5 creatures. The problem is that these creatures are bat-like. They are definitely from the realm below. You know them, and if you don't mind, I'll use one of your triumphs to clearly identify what the creatures. So you know these creatures are called storm ravagers. They dwell within these storms. They're very rare. You don't see them very much at all. But this particular storm seems to be full of them. They're probably around about the size of a griffin. So what's everybody going to do? You're probably now at this stage, you're at long range away from the storm, from the maelstrom. So the ship is starting to shudder under the vortex of winds. You can see that the rigging is starting to pull tight, and the ship itself starts grinding as it gets closer and closer. All right, so that's what you see from your perspective. But what would you like to do with the other tribes?
So, do they have a weakness that I know about?
Well, you know, obviously that if they don't have their wings, they don't fly very well. But I mean, that's pretty obvious. As far as a weakness, they obviously they're from the Shadow Realm, so they don't like the sunlight very well.
Okay. We can use this.
However, you rolled 3 threat.
I did.
Okay. So what happens is that you've probably had some bad experiences with storm ravagers in the past. So that causes you a point of strain, as a little bit of consternation. However, it also causes you to be a little bit on edge, so your next action is going to gain a setback die.
Yeah, so I've learnt this know this knowledge about these storm ravagers, and I use my attunement with the ship to communicate to the crew that they're storm ravagers and that they have a point of weakness, which is the sunlight, and obviously they don't have wings, they can't fly. So, so I communicate that through a hum through the ship, communicating with everyone in their mind.
Cool. Okay. All right.
So Artemis feels that hum through the deck and knows precisely what Anora has told us and gives us the warning about. He looks around the deck and he sees the crew sort of meandering about somewhat. Maybe they're a little bit frightened by the creatures that they've seen in the clouds forming ahead. And he says, "Look alive, people. We've got storm ravagers ahead. Your options are, we get through this. Either they eat you, or I eat you. Batten down the hatches, we're going in."
Awesome.
I'm going to do a coercion check to
Yes.
get this crew a little bit more motivated into getting the ship ready to go through the maelstrom.
Cool. All right. Difficulty for this will still make it a 3 purple die. However, You can gain a boost die, again, because you are the captain after all. And you've identified these creatures, and so you're not telling them lies, and maybe they don't want to be eaten by you or by them. So they are a little bit motivated to have another boost die as well.
Okay. Now, normally coercion goes off willpower. However, I'm a mongrel werewolf, which means I can use my brawn instead of willpower. So I'm basically standing up on the deck, very intimidating, and these guys know that, it's a bit of reputation with the old captain, because he may or may not have eaten his last crew. So they are, quite willing to jump to it when he barks at them. Normally, when a werewolf performs a social check, including coercion, with non-werewolf creatures, I would get 2 automatic setback to represent the fact that non-werewolves might miss a little bit of body language that werewolves portray. However, the old Artemis has been working with humans for quite some time, and he has a knack for it in coercion, so he removes 2 setback.
Nice. I can imagine the railing of where you order these commands, sort of on the back half of the ship, that has these. They're almost handholds, because you've sort of put your claws into to where they are, and they go a little bit deeper depending on the circumstances.
The carpenter hates repairing the ship after. All right. The final check of that coercion check is an impressive 4 successes and 2 advantages.
Wow.
So I'd imagine with the 4 successes, the crew just jumped to it. They've realised that I'm mucking around anymore. This isn't a Sunday sale. This is business. And they just jump to it. They start pulling the rigging, getting the
cannons.
The cannons, everything set to go. With the 2 advantages, I would like to have the crew jump to it and have the 4 and a half cannons ready to fire.
Okay, I'll allow that, definitely. All right, so yeah, they're all ready to go. There's people are just moving promptly. They were a little bit slack at the start, and sort of this whole diplomacy thing just isn't your scene. They've now a little bit of growling has definitely gotten them motivated to do their thing.
Coercion's a PR nightmare, but sometimes. The union's always on my back about it.
It's okay, you just eat them too.
Exactly.
You definitely ate them. Anyway.
I hate that union.
You hate them? Oh my god. All right, who's next?
So I am going to flip a story point and have that our ship has a series of mirrors installed on the top of it. It's normally used in a way so that when people are looking down, they actually can't quite see the ship. So it's a bit of a camouflage for us, kind of like, when, birds are flying and they can't see mirrors and windows and things that smack into it. But for like us, it's when people from cities or other ships are looking down, because we have to have 360-degree protection and protection and camouflage. So it's kind of working like that. But I'm going to flip a story point to use those mirrors in a way that actually reflects the sunlight lower and around it in a bit of a defense, so that when perhaps these creatures could come around us, it actually kind of throws them off and makes them a little bit more disoriented when they come near us.
I feel like these mirrors as well would be used for signalling between ships.
Yeah.
They've got multi-purposes.
Yeah.
Maybe they're originally designed for signalling, but however, in the years of air shipping, it's just discovered if you get enough of them and line them correctly, they can be used as an effective disguise to make the ship basically blend into the clouds when pirates and whatnot are descending from above.
And it's another reason why I kind of like being on the crow's nest, because when there's mirrors all around and then there's lightning cracking, it's like I'm completely surrounded 360s by lightning.
Nice.
Like it. So are you going to perhaps use the mirrors maybe as some sort of an attack as well? Or is that something you want to do later on, perhaps?
Yeah, probably giving them setback is more how I want to use that story point.
Okay, certainly. All right.
If you're using something that's not how it should be used, you could use skullduggery.
I can use skullduggery to do a check to see how well they are
Because all the
disoriented.
controls are up here, and you can sort of angle them and do all sorts of shenanigans with it.
That sounds cool.
Skullduggery is not used enough.
Okay.
So-
But they're probably a little bit too far out at the moment, because we're talking about long range ship scale.
We're not trying to attack them yet. She's just trying to set our defences so when they do attack us,
Sure.
we're going to have setbacks. So it's essentially shield.
Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, skullduggery check, definitely. Difficulty for the skullduggery check will be 2 purple dice. Now, the other thing as well is that these panels aren't really used in this sort of capacity, so you can have a setback die as well.
Okay. So that is 2 successes and 2 advantages.
2 successes, 2 advantages. Very nice. Okay. So, yeah, you've definitely set them up so that you will cause them some additional setback when they go to attack.
So 2 successes and maybe defense 2 on the ship.
I think that's probably
While
fair
we're
enough.
above the clouds.
Yep, absolutely. Right, so Martin or Madeline?
Do you have something?
I was thinking probably getting closer because that's where all the lightning that we want to collect is, and
We've got to fight these things.
Bonnie has set us up perfectly. Well, set us up for when I align our ship perfectly for an attack that will destroy these creatures. Hopefully.
So you can move the ship forward at full speed.
Would that be something you guys would be cool with?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So you're heading into the Maelstrom. Now, it's a frightening experience to say the least, as the wind and rain lash at the ship and buffet it from side to side, causing the crew to hold on to railings and other items on the deck of the ship. Now, this is a particular nasty storm, likely probably the worst that you've experienced in your career as a seer. So the difficulty of the check is going to be a hard check, or 3 purple dice. We'll get you to make an attunement seer check.
Also, because I have whipped the crew into the ship being shipshape, ready to sail efficiently, possibly she gets a free upgrade?
I would allow for an upgrade, certainly.
So that means my green becomes yellow, or I
That
get
is
a boost.
correct.
Okay. Cool.
However,
Oh no.
the wind shears are fairly extreme. So you can have 2 setback die for that.
But I'm an all-terrain driver.
Nice.
However, don't forget your ship's handling. The
Yeah.
handling is -2.
And that means
2 more setback dice.
Oh my
Yeah, buddy.
gosh.
What?
buddy.
Triumph.
Threats are in there though.
Hang on.
Let's go through the process. Yep.
Okay. So there's in total 4 successes and a triumph, or that's applied. Yes,
You got it perfect.
I'm getting this. And then there's 9 threats.
What?
Just quickly getting that out there.
Wow, you said that very quickly. 9 threat?
Yeah. That's what I said.
Wow. Okay, so let's deal with the success first. Okay, so at this point, you've managed to make it into the Maelstrom.
Oh, yeah.
That's not a problem. I would suggest that. What would you like to do with the tribe for a start? So you've moved a little bit further into the midst of it. So you're now at medium range away from the centre of the Maelstrom.
Can my triumph be that I have positioned the ship I positioned the ship perfectly for the mirrors to reflect onto the creatures.
Nice. So perhaps upgrading their first lot of attacks?
Yep.
I agree with that. That's totally fine.
And I thought of that all by myself.
Good job. All right, so
That's it. No more tips. You're on your own, kid.
You've graduated.
You have.
However, we have 9 threats to deal with.
Did you say that there was 9 bat-like creatures down there?
Just thank those.
Right. Yes. Oh dear. Okay. So what happens is that lightning arcs as you've sort of like come closer. It's obviously this lightning is arcane and it acts in mysterious ways. and it actually arcs across out of the maelstrom and ends up hitting the ship.
But not the net. The
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 ship,
actual ship itself,
which is you.
which is basically you.
Oh, that sucks.
At this point, the whole crew, okay, is going to, for their next check, is going to have an automatic upgrade because you scream at the top of your lungs, and because we've already established in
Yep.
canon that you scream psychically to all of the members of the crew, so everyone is going to get an upgrade to their the difficulty of their next check.
Sorry,
Now, I'd be
guys.
suggesting that's probably going to be about 7 threat. So you're also going to take 2 wounds. So you actually take physical damage from this lightning as it's arcs throughout the ship. I don't think I've ever seen 9 threat.
No, that's something
That's
new.
what happens when you have someone new.
Good job.
New things happen.
This is true. Martin, what would you like to do? Now, you are at medium range. So the ship is at medium range from...
This is vehicle range.
This is vehicle range.
I totally imagine your character kind of like going, "This is fine." You know, like there's nothing to be like. I've studied these things. Like I've read these in books and stuff, and people have always come back. Like, how else were the books written? If people didn't survive these things, it'll be fine. And you're just sitting there like loading all your various weapons, and it's just
Yeah, I'm taking notes.
yeah. Like this is just, and like this is like you are so prepared for this.
Yeah,
Maybe
I'll-
not for the reality.
No,
but
no, but I'll casually stroll about and I'll find myself a place to set up where I can rest my long arm, my spellbound rifle, musket thing. So it's got a bit of a brace so that I can fire at these creatures when they get closer.
Okay. Just a query. How has this psychic scream affected you?
Oh, yes. Poorly. He wouldn't have experienced anything like it.
Absolutely not.
Well, that's going to take up most of his, like, finding a place and dealing with this scream is going to take up most of his, that'll be his turn.
Yep, absolutely.
Because he's going to reel from this and try and deal with the reality of what's happening.
All right. So, as I said, you've basically got to medium range now. You're definitely within the outskirts of the storm proper. The ship is really buffeting. You can sort of feel it almost getting sucked into the maelstrom. The maelstrom itself is, you initially thought that it was a storm, but it appears to be perhaps have a bit of a funnel within the midst of the storm itself, like a tornado. And you can feel the ship being pulled sideways. Who'd like to go next?
Well, I haven't gone yet in this next round, so we're getting closer. So I am going to, so I've angled the mirrors the best way that I can so that they're ready. So I've done what I can to defend the ship, so I'm going to get myself ready. And I'm going to pull out my infused whip that I have, getting that ready and charged, and she like uncoils it, it like snaps on the ground, like little bits of spark and lightning coming off it. And I imagine as well that there's a few little bits and bobs from the in the crow's nest that I would usually use. And I imagine there's a bit of netting there as well, so I'm going to like grab some of that netting and just kind of attach it to my side, and then all of a sudden this loud scream comes into my head and like fills my brain, and it doesn't exactly hurt me so much because it's kind of like I'm used to this kind of pain, but in the same thing I'm completely disoriented, so like it's almost like I'm reaching and I have to like force myself to actually like move just to be able to grab the netting and attach it to my hip, ready for whatever we might encounter. But I'm like incapacitated and everything's much more difficult to even try and focus. And at the same time, I'm also really worried about the type of pain that she's feeling because I know exactly what it's like to be struck by lightning in that way. So I'm empathetically like feeling very worried for you because I just know how that pain feels, but it's nothing new to me either, so it's almost not so inhibiting.
Cool. Who else would like to tell me what they're doing after said psychic scream?
All right, I imagine Artemis, he's mid barking a command as this psychic scream just emanates up through the deck and just smashes him in the back of the head. You can feel it rip up his spine, like this hot lance behind each of his eyes. And he grips onto the railing of the deck that he's standing on, and the wood all splinters and cracks under his big paws. The whole rail just splits off and breaks away as he sort of is staggered forward from it. For a brief split second, which seems to go for an eternity almost in his mind, in the corners of his vision, these red tendrils try and tear away his sanity as he's inflicted by the horrors of the blood kraken that he once lived through not so long ago. And for a brief moment, he feels his sanity slipping away, but manages to regain his self-control and pull himself back together.
Nice. All right. So the ship moves closer into the midst of the maelstrom. You are now at short range. I'll get another piloting check from you.
Okay.
So your next check, as I said, was upgraded. So it's going to be 3 purples and a red.
Of course it is.
At this point, I imagine Artemis is barking orders to the crew and to Anora to say that the funnel in this in the storm is where we need to go to get down to the lightning. So angle up the ship and dive us down.
The crew are definitely rattled as well because they've also been affected by the scream. Some of them are cowering. That's certainly affected them quite substantially. They're not used to this type of arcane effect.
This feedback.
Okay. So, Madeline, your check. 3 purples, 1 red. You've got the maelstrom itself where you're closer in now, so you get 3 setback die from the weather and the wind, and also you have the additional 2 setback from the handling of the ship.
Don't forget you have all-terrain driver, so you ignore those 3 setback.
There you go.
That's it.
Yep.
All-terrain driver, amazing.
I have rolled 1 failure and 1 threat.
Oh dear.
Yes.
So you know how I mentioned before about the ship basically going sideways? So at this point, you feel the ship, initially you sort of had control, but now that you've had all of this, this arcane lightning, which has hit you and you've caused you to scream, it's also caused you to lose control of the ship. So the ship is sort of moving sideways into the midst of the maelstrom without control.
Okay.
The threat is that you take 2 points of strain because you mentioned before about that you want to protect your crew.
Yep.
Certainly doing this is not going to protect them very well, and you realise that they may die as a result. So that causes you some strain.
So early on.
All right. At this point, you are now short range. So I think we should be talking about a little bit of initiative.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, you also notice with this screen, it's probably gone out in a sort of a wave, almost as an aura. And these storm ravagers, who are used to dealing with magic, or certainly within the effects of magic, if nothing else, they straight away turn and notice the ship, and they start flying towards the ship. Can I get an initiative roll from everyone? So that's going to be vigilance. Okay, so the vigilance check is Mike. What did you get?
Well, quite clearly, Artemis is still reeling from this psychic scream that emanated from the deck of his ship. So he's reacted swiftly in this combat with 0 and 1.
0 and 1. All right, and Martin.
0 and 2.
Right.
Twice as good as me.
Okay. Caitlin.
Bonnie's just grabbed the net and is getting ready for combat, and as the scream starts to fade out, like her scars start to tingle, and so she starts to like she's not coping well because she's empathetically feeling that pain all over again. So she had a very good reaction of 0 and 5.
It's 5 times better than me.
And how did you go, Madeline?
So I rolled 2 successes and 2 advantages.
2 successes, 2
Nice.
advantages. You may be the saving grace.
Yay!
This kid, I tell you.
Right, so the creatures, 2 of them, because as I said, there are 5 of them. 2 of them are going to concentrate on the ship because they're they're more entertained with the crew and the netting itself. I mean, they're creatures; they're mindless. However, 3 of them are going to focus more on the crew as well as yourselves. So I rolled a 4 and a 1, a 3 and a 2, and a 1 and a 2. So that's going to be 2 NPCs, 1 PC, 1 NPC, and then 3 PCs. All right, so the Storm Ravager comes in and it looks for the largest and most ferocious target to take out. It is Artemis, who stands on the railing of the quarterdeck, having been literally barking orders at the crew moments before. It goes in to make its attack. The upgrade because it's a little bit disorientated with the mirrors and whatever else that we're pointing towards it, will automatically upgrade the check, and it has 2 setback die as well. I think we established before.
The sun being bounced down to the deck, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. So they're kind of affected badly when it comes to that.
You're also forgetting that I have 2 melee defense.
Ooh, melee
So
defense.
don't jip me on that.
No, that is true. Okay, so 2 melee defense. Well, that didn't help that roll, did it? All right. However, the check has failed. Quite substantially, for that matter. But they did get 5 advantages.
Oh.
So it's landed. It hasn't done any damage to you, but it's forced you off the quarterdeck, breaking the railings as it charges through, taking you with it to the deck below. Oh. Now the Storm Ravager lands on top of you, forcing you prone, and causes you to have 1 setback die to your next check, as it will be hard to manoeuvre from underneath it.
Okay.
All right, so the second one moves in. Who else is on the deck? I believe, yes, that would be Jerrico. So another one flies past and basically goes to attack Jerrico.
I haven't got my shield up yet.
No, so what is your melee defense?
0.
Right, okay.
The Storm Ravagers are smart. They know to attack when defenses are down.
That one's writing notes. Attack him.
Had I not been distracted by the psychic scream earlier, I may have remembered to cast my barrier.
Quickly,
This is true.
attack that one. His deflectors are down.
All right, so the Storm Ravager comes down from the clouds, through the thick, dark clouds, avoiding the rigging as it swoops down to attack. It lands hard on the deck and bites at you with its huge maw. Unfortunately, its check has failed as well, as it's mistimed, probably due to... I'm just looking at the dice. It's got nothing to do with the mirrors. It's probably got more to do with the rigging or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it's landed on the deck and tried to have a swipe at you, but failed. However, it has caused you to sort of have to jump out of the way, and you gain a setback die to your next check, whatever that might be. And then it's a PC. And so who'd like to go next?
Well, I think it's only natural that Artemis was attacked first, so he's going to get up and show this Storm Ravager who the biggest and baddest on this ship is. So he's going to nimbly, in a way that sort of is misleading for his size. He jumps up using the jump up talent.
Yep.
So he stands as an incidental.
Right.
He draws his greatsword from his back, which as he swings it down and readies it in front of the Blood Ravager, it crackles and sparks with an arcane energy as the infuser that's inbuilt into the hilt crackles with the arcane lightning that's used to damage the shade. Because ordinary mundane weapons doesn't do anything to the shade. So if a weapon has any chance of hurting one of these creatures or any shade creature, it has to have at least an infuser or be a tuned operator's weapon. So he's also a little bit on edge because he did have that psychic blast has just rattled his mind. So if the blood curdling howl, that'll probably spook a fair bit of the crew. He'll enter a rage.
Cool.
Because how dare these things attack his ship and his crew. And what that gives me on all my attacks that I make for the rest of the encounter, I generate an automatic success and 2 advantages.
Right.
However, any attacks you make at me are generated automatic success. As my guard is somewhat down, as I'm just slashing away like a crazy person. Like a werewolf, you could say.
Strangely enough.
So, he's pretty good in combat. So, for Artemis's attack, he's rolling 4 green dice because he has 4 brawn. However, he has 2 ranks in melee weapons, so 2 of those green get upgraded to yellow. Making a close combat attack against anything is 2 purple. Because of the psychic scream still rattling him to the core, one of those purple will become a red. He does have a setback though because he has been caught unbalanced by the Storm Ravager. So there, he's going to attack. I'm going to take 2 strain.
Yep.
To aim.
Cool.
Not bad.
My end total on the dice is 3 successes. However, because I'm in a frenzy, I do add another success. So that's 4 successes. I've scored no threats or advantages. But because I'm in frenzy, I added 2 more advantages to the attack. So in total, I've done 4 successes, which will give me 4 extra damage. And my damage output is going to be 8. So it's going to be a total of 12 damage to the Storm Ravager.
Ouch.
And the crit rating on my weapon is 2. And I happen to have scored 2 advantages thanks to the frenzy. So I'm going to also activate a crit. And just so you know as well, this sword does have Pierce 1, so ignoring 1 of your soak.
Right, okay. So it has a soak of 3, so that's going to be downgraded to a soak of 2. So you did 14 points of damage?
14 points of damage.
Okay, cool. So it has severely injured this particular creature.
Alright, now for the crit. It's a good blow.
Ooh,
it's a good hit.
It is a hit.
He sinks the great sword into this creature. It screams in a unearthly tone as I roll a 91.
91. So a 91 is at the brink. And what happens is that every time that they perform an action, they take 2 strain.
Wow.
Now, these particular creatures are rivals. So they don't have wound thresholds.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yes, it is. So you've done an absolute bucket load of damage. This thing screams at the top of its lungs.
As it's screaming, and I'm howling,
Yep.
there's going to be a laugh in there somewhere too.
Get off my ship!
So this thing you can see inside of its maw that sort of the blood starts coming from one of its wounds. It's obviously affected it to the point that its insides are bleeding. It screams and then takes off from the deck, leaving it at a great rate of knots.
Okay.
So the next action of another NPC. So up in at the top of the ship, Bonnie is preparing nets and angling the mirrors as one of the Ravagers comes down, swoops down out of the clouds and goes to attack. Do you have a melee defense?
I have 1 melee defense.
Oh dear. All right, so the attack has actually failed.
Oh, good.
However,
Oh, God.
however, there is 1 threat, so things don't look well for it. However, there is also a triumph.
Oh, no.
So what happens is that it screams down out of the clouds, hits or misses you completely, but does hit the balloon of the ship.
Oh no.
Stop it! It hurt.
As it sort of like screeches along the edge of the membrane of the airship above you, and you can start to see whatever type of air, whether it be helium or whatever else that's used to hold the airship in place, starts to leak. It's going to give a permanent setback die to piloting checks until that's repaired.
Sounds like a job for a master engineer who is an asshole.
Stick your face near the leaking gas.
Stick my face next to the leaking gas.
Yes.
Makes perfect sense. Breathe deep.
So yeah, this thing, it sort of, once it's landed and actually stopped sort of sliding down, it sort of like turns its attention towards you, and with its great back wings, it screams and sort of looks at you with its dead red eyes. Who's next?
Would it be alright if I go?
Go right ahead.
So this creature has landed next to me and is engaged range.
Certainly is.
That won't do. So I step backwards away from this creature to gain a little bit of distance because my weapons are only effective at short range.
Right.
As a minimum. Now, I had my rifle out before, but that's not going to do here. So I quick draw one of my pistols from my brace along my chest. This is going to be my empowered spellbound pistol.
Right.
And I'm going to adjust my glasses, moving the right lens into place, and say, "You do not have permission to be here, creature," and blast away at it.
Nice.
Now, so this is an attack spell action with the empowered quality, which will upgrade the difficulty of my check by 2.
Right.
So in total, the difficulty of this check, because my pistol is essentially a wand as a magical implement, it is 3 difficulty. It also has the deadly quality, which is the base thing for spellbound pistols. And yeah, so that's basically what I've got the difficulty I've got to work with for shooting this creature.
Well, these creatures have a range defense of 1.
Okay, so I'll add a setback in addition to the setback from before because it crashed down next to me.
Yep. And don't forget the automatic upgrade because you're still reeling from the psychic scream.
I can't forget that. And I'm actually quite good at attunement spell slinger. I have 3 yellow and a green.
Right.
For making this check.
Nice.
All right, here we go. Excellent. So, oh, sorry, I did forget to mention that the adjusting of my goggles gave me, because I would do an additional aim maneuver.
Yep.
And that gives me an automatic advantage.
Okay, cool.
Instead of the boost to the check.
Cool. Awesome.
Which will cost me 2 strain to do and 2 strain for the actual casting
Spell
of this
itself.
spell.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
So I get a total of 2 successes and 2 advantages. Now, this is a shadow creature, isn't it?
It is.
Now, I've studied them. I'm Shadow Bane,
Right.
which reduces the critical of any chance to hit these creatures by 1.
Nice. So what does it mean? That you have a critical range of 1?
I had, yes, exactly, on this spell.
Lovely.
So I crit twice.
Ouch. Okay, so they'll give you plus 10 to your critical hit.
Yep, plus 20 because the weapon is also vicious too.
Good lord.
And it starts with a damage of twice my cunning, so 8
Right.
because it's empowered,
Yes.
plus 3 for the wand, for the spellbound pistol, so a total of 11.
Right.
And this is a lucky strike. So I'm going to flip a story point
Yep.
and add my cunning again.
Wow.
So
Okay.
15 damage, crit twice.
Okay. So, with that, does it have any pierce by any chance?
No, it doesn't.
Well, there you go. Okay. So, it has 3 soaks. So, at 15 points, it does 12 points of damage. Haven't quite killed it.
Oof.
It
They're
is still,
tough.
they are tough a little bit. So, yeah, but you've done some serious amount of damage. However, you need to roll the critical hit.
So imagine as you fire this magical pistol of yours, the whole deck lights up with this blast of like
Pure arcane
focused
energy.
arcane energies.
Yep.
Love it.
So I roll a 13 on the dice.
Okay.
Plus 30, so vicious 2 and the additional crit.
Yep.
That is a 43.
Yep. So, when you've hit this thing, you've fired directly at its chest as it sort of, reared up and screamed. And this blast has effectively, you've caught it just at the right moment, and it's forced it sort of backwards and onto the deck, and it skitters across the deck on its back. So it is prone. The critical roll that you made was bowled over, so the target is knocked prone and suffers 1 strain, which, surprisingly enough, kills it.
I like to think it isn't strain it's suffering as such. As it lands on the deck, the crew that are around all the riggers see what's happening, they immediately pounce on this thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
and they sort of like grab sort of some hooks or
that's the
their
thing.
cutlasses or whatever else and just sort of like start pummeling into it.
That's it. And it's just writhing on the deck as it's howling and screaming. And there's like 6 or 7 crewmen just leaping and bounding all over it, jabbing hooks and daggers and whatever infused weaponry they can get their hands on.
Perfect.
And start just tearing this thing from limb to limb.
Perfect.
That is so cool.
I love it.
Awesome. Okay, who's next? Bonnie.
So I am still at the top of the ship. I currently have a net in one hand, and I have this creature that's like sitting on the blimp staring at me. I am going to I'm going to actually kind of drop the net and pull out my halberd instead and kind of like stare at it, and it's this really long spear with an axe at the end of it, and it's infused with lightning, so it's cracking as I'm holding it. And as I'm like making eye contact, I'm just going to start running at full speed direct at it, and then just as I'm like about halfway between me and him, I'm just going to puff into smoke, and the smoke's just going to dissipate, and then it's going to reappear somewhere when I roll and see what I do. So I'm going to perform an umbral leap with the hope that if I succeed, an umbral leap is a maneuver. So my goal is to umbral leap on top of it and then to do a downward stabbing motion into its face with my halberd as my action. So I'm going to take some strain, obviously, to be able to do this.
Sure.
So my umbral leap requires me to do a hard discipline check to teleport to any location within medium range of myself at a cost of 2 strain. So I'm going to do that.
Cool.
You can choose to add stuff.
Well, the whole of the place is filled with lightning as it's sort of arcing across the sky. So you can definitely have a setback die to that as well.
Okay, I also have a talent where I'm swift in the fact that I can do movement in any type of environment around me. So I'm going to ignore that setback.
Nice.
So I succeed with just 1 straight success.
Yep.
So I managed to the black inky smoke that where my body once was, just all of a sudden it just starts to float towards the creature, and it kind of like looks around going, I know what this is, and like trying to look to see where I am, and I can just imagine that he's looking around but he doesn't look up, and then all of a sudden the smoke reforms, and in like a crack of lightning I pull down with my halberd to hopefully strike.
All right, because of the umbral maneuver that you've managed to get into engaged range, so you've got the equivalent of having height advantage. So you get a boost die for that. Would you like to aim at all?
because I've been able to umbral leap, I've been able to make sure I'm positioned, and because I was successful, positioned in just the right spot. So yeah, I would love to be able to aim with that.
Cool. So obviously you'll be taking 2 points of strain
Yes.
as well.
Yep.
But yeah, you get another boost die.
Fantastic. And what would the difficulty be?
And the difficulty for this, it's just a normal melee check. So that's going to be 2 difficulty. So that's an average check.
Okay, so I actually had a flat wash. I didn't get anything.
Okay.
But if you'll allow it, I don't cause any damage to it. It kind of shirks out of the way. So yeah, if you'd be okay with it, because I think it'd be really cool if I was able to flip a story point, that because it had no idea where I was and it was looking around to see if it was like coming behind me or whatever, coming behind it, that I flip a story point so that I land on its back. And because I still had my whip from before, I have the whip that just basically is resting kind of like ready. I've got my whip ready for the next round.
Cool.
So you effectively wrangled it with your whip.
Yeah, I kind of want to wrangle it with my whip, but I'm also aware that would probably be too much in this check. So I want to have it ready to perhaps do that in the next round.
Because see, I picture that you sort of when you're moving umbrally, that you've reappeared behind it. It's sort of had no idea where you were, so it's sort of like stepped from side to side. But it's given you that opportunity, even though that your attack has missed, that you've jumped on, but you've had your whip out at the same time. And you've sort of swung it around its neck, so you're on top of its neck, and effectively, if it takes off, then you might be riding it as well, perhaps.
Hells yes.
Cool.
That's
Awesome.
exactly what I want.
All right, so I believe we have one last PC, so that would be Madeline.
Yes, it would.
So what are you doing? I think you need to probably continue gaining control of the ship somehow.
Yeah, I want to gain back, because you said that I lost control
That is correct.
of the ship. So I want to get back in control of the
Yep.
ship and just control it.
So you basically want to wrangle control of the ship and straighten it out so it's not out of control.
Thank you for making that sound awesome when I couldn't.
All right, so the difficulty for this is going to be 4 purple dice. But you have a setback die because of the damage to the balloon at the top. Yeah, I think that's about it. Was there another setback die as well?
Handling?
Oh yeah, the handling. So that's going to be 2 setback die for the handling.
All-terrain driver!
Not the handling.
But the all-terrain driver will allow you to remove the setback die that I'm about to apply to the weather. So that's fine.
Okay,
We'd have another 3 more if it wasn't for
Yeah,
the
pretty
all-terrain
much.
driver.
Yeah.
and I'm
as
still
the-
using my CR for
Yeah.
piloting.
Yeah. So yeah, as the maelstrom is whipping it around, you can the ship is effectively spinning out of control.
Okay.
You've got this.
Yeah. You can do it. Oh. Looks
Can I
alright.
though?
I don't know, can you?
Madeline doesn't roll failures. She just rolls threats.
No, those aren't failures.
I know. She doesn't roll failures. She rolls threats. That's amazing.
Okay. So I have rolled 1 success and 1 threat.
Right. Okay. So what's happened is that you've managed to right the ship into the waves. So you're now travelling within the maelstrom. You're skimming the outside part of the clouds. So you're within the sort of the outside of the eye of the storm.
Not riding the swirl, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. However, it puts so much strain on all of the rigging that some of the rigging actually starts to snap away. And the ship itself takes 2 system strain, which, because you are attached to it, translates to 2 strain to yourself. All right, so who's next?
That's top of the round.
Top of the round.
Oh, before we move on, from Maddie. I was going to make a suggestion for you because you still have some maneuvers left. We're in the Maelstrom. Why don't we lower the booms and start collecting lightning?
That's probably a good plan.
If you do this though, if you lower the booms now, it's going to give you another 2 setback to any piloting checks you make because it takes our handling from a -2 to a -4.
But we'll get some lightning. Money in the bank.
That is true.
It's your call.
You do have control of the ship now, though.
Yes, but considering that I had about 4 difficulty and then I had about 3 already set
Well,
back.
as long as you're not doing anything particularly crazy now,
You're not going to be
you're not going to be making any more piloting checks as
Well,
such.
true, yeah.
I'm sorry, am I in the right table?
I haven't jumped off the ship yet.
I know, we haven't done a boarding action. Well, technically I have, just to a creature.
All right, so we're back at the top of the round, which means that we have one of the Storm and Ravagers has flown off into the distance, clearly having been damaged to the point that it was just bugging out. The other one, however, is now dead on the deck with all of the crew stabbing it with weapons and whatever other items that they can find to eliminate the threat. However, there is one on top of the ship which is battling with Bonnie, and there are another 2 that have been circling to find out what else is going on. Well, obviously the leader has failed in his attack, so it's time for the other male of the Storm Ravagers to try to prove himself to his brood. So he races in to again attack Artemis.
Got this.
Stop it.
Just an FYI, all the story points are in my side too.
Oh, really?
Why would you say that?
Because I want story points
This
on
is
our
true.
side.
Okay, yeah.
It's fair.
Okay,
All right,
so I'll
so-
have 3 melee defense.
Okay, you've got 3 melee defense at this point.
Because your weapon's defensive, isn't it?
And then my armor is magic combat armor, which I've described as an amulet that he wears.
Okay,
Yeah.
It gives him 2 soak and 2 melee defense.
nice. Okay, so this creature really wants to prove its worth. So I'm going to spend a story point to flip and upgrade my check.
We'll allow that. However, don't forget the mirrors are currently deflecting all the sunlight that's still
good
available.
call. Yes,
2
they are.
more setbacks.
That's 2 more
This
setbacks.
creature's writhing in the sunlight.
Very good. Okay.
Also, don't forget, you're adding, because I'm in a frenzy, you are adding an automatic success to your roll.
Right, indeed. Okay. So I've ended up with 1 success, 2 threat, and a triumph. So I'm going to use a triumph to perform a critical hit.
Okay.
As this thing has come in with its claws and it's grabbed onto you. It only does 5 points of damage to you. So does it actually get through your soak? It does not.
Artemis feels this thing tickling him from behind. And he spins around to glare at it.
Right. Okay, so for the triumph then, I'm not going to be using it for a crit because I haven't done any damage. However, it's going to grapple with you. So these things have an ability called swoop attack. So what I'm going to use the triumph for is it actually grabs hold of you and it flies off the deck. So you are currently in its grasp. You haven't been sort of affected, but you're kind of wrestling with this thing in the open air.
Okay. So, from a mechanic standpoint, it's 2 maneuvers to get away from it.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so you're currently short range away from the ship.
I like it.
Do you?
All right, so that's the first one's attack. The one that's on the top of the ship that is battling with Bonnie, it's going to try to get you off its back, if possible. So I'm going to get it to make an opposed athletics check.
Could she use survival to wrangle the beast?
I don't have a problem with that.
So these creatures as well, they are from
The shadow.
the shadow.
Shadows, yeah, absolutely.
And my whip is actually infused with lightning, so perhaps there could be a setback with it. That is actually something it's not exactly causing any damage to it because it's just
discomfort.
discomforting. So it's actually like, ugh.
How about the mirrors?
How about the mirrors?
It's blinded too. It doesn't like sunlight.
Ooh, okay, all right. So we establish that it's 2 setback die for that, absolutely. But we've also got the wind and whatever else that they're used to that you're not necessarily used to. I'm going to give it a boost die as well.
Did you want an upgrade?
Did I want to upgrade? I'm
think you
actually
did.
liking this idea. I will upgrade.
No, just, you got to help out sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So, I have succeeded with a triumph.
Hey, our partner.
You're going to be like grappling with this. So Mike's character is going to be grappling with this creature, and he's just going to see me going, "Why?"
So,
as I fall.
basically what happens is that it sort of bucks you off because I've rolled a success and a triumph. So, yes, you've fallen off the creature. The triumph, however, means that you are falling to your death.
Been there, done that.
Get your character sheet out. Off you go.
I said this at the beginning. He's made us make the NPCs because they're the characters that we're going to be playing.
You're about to land on the NPC and squish him.
Oh, that's a triumph for me.
However, there is a chance that you could always grab onto some rigging.
Or
Good,
vamp
it's not-
back to the ship.
I can teleport.
There you can teleport back to the ship. That is true. So yeah, you've Artemis, that you are now left the ship, and you can see Bonnie basically fall off the side.
Interesting. Well, you know what?
What?
Is it our turn next?
It is your turn. Next.
Well, just so happens to be as I see Bonnie falling from the deck, I'm going to flip one of those story points, and she's plummeting right down past my little creature that I'm riding.
And do I land on top of it? Because that would be hilarious. It's a story point.
So what would you like to do with it? Is that what you'd like to do, or
I don't know why I
it's
went
just
to-
close by?
Flipping the story point.
Yep.
So Bonnie is plummeting down from the balloon of the ship, right past where I happen to be being flown on by in the grip of the storm Ravager. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my Freonic ability to move anywhere within short range.
Oh.
So I'm going to use my 2 maneuvers to disengage from the grapple
Yep.
and leap from the Storm Ravager and grab onto Bonnie. Have total faith in her Umbra leap. We've done this before.
This is all according to
really?
plan.
This is a regular maneuver.
This is a regular maneuver.
I imagine it would be absolutely hilarious if this was like a regular game that we played where you try and sneak up on me, and then every single time you try and like jump on me, I'm supposed to like umbral poof away. So it's like if you manage to succeed, I'm there and you tackle me.
Yep.
If I win, you land on the ground because I'm somewhere else because of the thing. Like the games the little cats and stuff play. That's
yeah.
obviously not how that happens. But still, that'd be funny.
All right. So so you're now grappled effectively with Bonnie. Is that what we're saying? Cool.
I've leapt from the creature and I've snatched onto Bonnie.
Yep.
And wrapped myself around her, knowing she's quite efficient for Umbra leap, and she's going to take us safely to the deck of the ship.
Cool.
If she doesn't, she's fired.
And so are you.
Right. Very good. All right. So as the storm swirls around you, the arms of the lightning rods have been extended. The red and purple lightning hit the lightning rods and start being collected by the crew as they're sort of preparing the canisters as the lightning is siphoned in. You've clearly just handled yourself spectacularly by destroying this creature with one shot. However, the other creature, the other Storm Ravager, which is flying around, has seen the opportunity of you with your weapon pointing in one direction. So it's come in from behind you and gone to attack. So what is your melee defense?
0.
Right. Okay. Now, it is affected by the mirrors and whatever else, so that's 2 setback dice. It's going to aim, in actual fact. Aiming did absolutely nothing for it.
But did it hit?
It did not hit.
Yes!
So it skidded along the deck, possibly skidding on the blood from its friend as it skidded along the deck, and it's rolled 2 threat. So it slams into probably...
The angry crew that are still pulling apart.
Here comes another one!
All right, so who's next? I believe it would be a PC.
May I go next?
Go for it.
So what's going to happen? This creature's now at short range to me
It is.
because it slid past.
Yep.
The creature that was there, that
When you
was
say
being
there,
ridden,
as you're pointing in the
that-
podcast.
was being ridden by the werewolf captain of this ship.
Yes.
That's how far away? Medium now?
It's medium range away from you, yeah.
Excellent. I'm going to drop my empowered spellbound pistol and reach into my brace and pull out another lightning pistol.
Right.
Which has a range modifier and lightning as the special qualities on it.
Nice.
This gives it the auto fire special quality as well.
Right.
Because it's lightning that spews forth from this gun.
Right.
And I'm going to target the one off the deck because I have to shoot it the furthest away to activate auto fire.
Yep.
And so that with all of everything said and done, it's going to be 4 difficulty.
Ooh.
But I can potentially hit both creatures.
Okay.
But I'm going to adjust my goggles and do 2 maneuvers, which will give me 2 automatic advantages on this check.
Nice.
I'm also going to steal that last story point.
Right.
Because I'm feeling bolstered by my success and the inability of these creatures to strike me. I am on top of the world.
You also have a setback die as well, because it has a ranged defense of 1.
Yep.
However, the just as you're sort of you're saying I'm on top of the world, as a bolt of red lightning basically crashes across the deck, so you can flip a story point in the opposite direction to upgrade your check once.
Okay, here we go. Jesus.
So it's not just me.
With 1 despair.
Oh wow!
What is
But I also have 2 triumphs.
Wow!
That's
Wow.
ridiculous.
We'll just remove these. So, in total, I have 1 success, 2 triumphs,
Oh my god!
and a despair.
Right. Okay. So let's deal with the despair first up. So this red lightning has arced across the deck, and it has slammed into you.
Ow.
You're going to take 4 non-soakable wounds and a critical.
Well, you did want to study lightning and the effects on people, so...
Not quite this close.
So the critical hit first is a 17.
Ow.
That hurt.
Okay, so as you've been hit by this lightning, you're completely disorientated. Your senses are just all over the place because you can see this little bit of sort of static electricity going over the top of you. As far as a critical hit goes, mechanically, it is scattered senses, which I think is completely appropriate. But the target of it, namely yourself, removes all boost die from skill checks until this critical hit is healed.
What difficulty is that?
That is a 2 purple die.
Okay.
So, but you succeeded.
I did. Quite spectacularly. I'm only going to deal 8 damage.
Right.
So what happens is that I fire this pistol and lightning starts arcing out at the one out in the air that's just been that our fearless captain has just vacated. Meanwhile, the red lightning strikes down at me, hitting me, using me as a channel, straight through me, through my pistol, and the lightning striking this creature turns red. I'll use the triumphs to hit twice using auto fire.
Right.
So I've hit 3 times in total on this creature, dealing 8 damage each time.
Good lord.
And yeah, it just...
That will completely, it incinerates instantly as this red lightning arcs straight across into it, and covers the deck in this sort of black ichor, which are from these creatures.
Black boiling ichor, so it's steaming on the deck.
Oh yeah, I like it.
I don't feel so great.
I feel ichor.
All right, so that's you've eliminated 3 targets now. Okay, who'd like to go next?
Okay, so I have just been manhandled by a giant wolf who's grabbed onto me while I'm falling. And I know what I need to do. I need to try and get us, not falling and back onto some sort of solid ground. So I'm going to try an umbral leap with this furry mass that is very fluffy attached to me.
You feel very poor about it.
Oh my god.
I'm not even sorry.
I'm trying to be really good here. How's that working out for you? So, I have to do a hard discipline check, but I do have a fluffy butt attached to me.
A fluffy butt. So that's going to upgrade your check due to the fluffy butt. That's going to upgrade your check once.
So, my first roll was a straight wash, so I imagine that I'm a bit winded after being grappled, and so the first time I've tried to do it, it was a failure. But because it's a maneuver, I'm going to try and give that another go.
But that did cost you 2 strain.
It did cost me 2 strain. I'm going to upgrade my check as well because I definitely don't want to fail this next one because we.
Cool.
Ooh. So my roll is a failure. Yes. I have 1 failure, 1 threat, and a triumph.
Okay.
Interestingly enough. So my whole aim is, and what I really wanted to do was, even at the detriment to myself, is to save the captain. So with my triumph, I want to be able to at least get the captain on the deck. So perhaps I don't necessarily succeed with my own umbral leap in the sense that I get us on the deck where you get released and you are dropped, maybe not necessarily in the most nicest manner, but let's be real, you didn't jump on me in the most nicest manner anyway, so, tit for tat. But I can't reform. I'm kind of stuck in my shade form on the deck, which is basically this mass of inky tar shadows that's just got little bits of lightning sparking through it every now and then, and so I'm effectively kind of out of the next round or so.
Fight, but you're still on the deck effectively.
Yes, but I just can't reform into.
You've got to keep trying to reform.
Yeah.
Cool.
Maybe on just off to the side, staying on the deck, is the masked engineer Gregor, the guy that you've had run-ins to in the past, and he sees this and sees what you've become, and it adds another layer of distrust he has towards you because you're just further proving that you don't belong on the ship. You're just pure bad luck. That's Gregor's opinion.
This is true.
If you want to play out that NPC,
yeah, absolutely. I think that's cool.
But to be fair, I think Gregor needs to get up and start fixing our blimp rather than passing judgment on an inky mass.
All right, so who's next?
That would be me.
Radio, what are you going to do?
So similar to before when I was attacked by lightning, and I let out a psychic blast to my crew members, I'm going to be doing something similar, except focusing in on the creature, well, the Storm Ravager.
Right.
And I'm going to try and psychically blast it.
Using what the messaging system effectively on board the ship.
Yes.
Cool. That's awesome. So the difficulty for this is going to be 1 because it's a spell. Going to be another difficulty because it's a melee attack. And because the ship isn't normally used in this sort of capacity, I'm going to increase the difficulty again. So that's going to be 3 purple die in total. And because you're using the attack spell in this case, you won't be using attunement seer as you would normally use for the ship. But because you're attuned human, you do have the ability to use both of the attunement skills. So instead it'll be attunement spell slinger is the skill that you will use for that.
Right. I would like to aim twice.
And that'll give you 2 boost die because you'll aim and then you'll aim again. So that'll give you 2 boost die. But because it's a spell, you also take another 2 points of strain. So you'll be taking 4 strain in total. But at least you'll give yourself an extra 2 boost die.
Okay. So I miss my attack. However, I have gained 1 advantage. So I have caused it to be disorientated / stunned a little bit, and I would like to add a setback die.
Sure, absolutely. That's cool. All right, so it is sort of it's shaking its head while being affected by the psychic scream that you've tried to target it, but you've been sort of unsuccessful in attacking it. But there is certainly, perhaps it's because it's a different species than you used to. So yeah, it starts shaking its head and does get a setback die. Okay, who's next? Top of the round. Okay, so we've got 2 of the Storm Ravagers. We have 1 which is
Up in the balloon?
Up in the balloon, and then we have another one which is on the deck. So the one that's on the deck is going to turn its attention towards the Spell Slinger.
Oh dear.
Oh dear indeed.
Don't forget, I am back on deck.
You are back on deck.
But I just fried 2 of its companions.
You are making a lot of noise. Whilst I'm falling and plonking along the deck.
All right, so again, it's a setback die because of the psychic attack, but it's within range of you. It was short range. Was it short range?
Short range,
Short
yeah.
range. Okay. So it performs a maneuver to get to you, and it just attacks, which is actually going to miss, and it'd be a complete wash.
I'm invulnerable.
All right, so yeah, it sort of like bites down, but you've stepped out of the way again as it sort of like screams out. Okay.
What do they teach you at that university?
Badassery.
Right, I'll swing in next, I think.
Well, hang on a tick. We've got another NPC first.
No, it doesn't count.
So the other one, which was upstairs, it's swooped down onto the deck. And it can sort of see you, so it moves to attack Artemis as well.
Yep, I'm probably prone, I imagine, right now, so you will get a boost to your attack.
Cool.
Don't forget the mirrors.
We have 2 setback die for the mirrors.
Correct.
We have... How many setback die for your armor? 3?
3 setback dice.
Okay. So 3 setback die for that. That's disturbing. That's a lot of setback die.
You get to add an automatic success, though. Those are my friends.
Very good. But I'll also flip a story point because this thing has had enough.
Clearly.
And you don't see that every day.
No, you do. You do see blacks.
Total blanks on all of the setback. Every single one of them.
That's pretty standard, if you ask me.
Wow. Okay. So that's actually a success with an advantage.
All right.
So this thing bites down on you, only doing or attempting to do some damage. So with a success and an advantage, you've taken 7 points of damage.
Okay. After my soak, I only take 1 wound.
Wow.
Okay.
With the advantage, because it's the way that it's positioned in comparison to its friend, they're kind of sort of almost doing a bit of a raptor maneuver, and they're sort of getting in between the two of you.
Clever girl.
Clever. So the other one gets a boost die to its next check.
Well, I am going to leap up and attack this creature. I'm going to aim twice,
Okay.
so I'm sick of it and all of its shenanigans.
So I'm imagining as well that in the background there's more lightning, purple and red, hitting the collectors, lighting up the deck in this sort of red and purple.
All right. As this creature looms over Artemis, you know, if its fangs snapping, it had the guile to draw a bit of Artemis's blood. And he's not happy with this whatsoever. So he leaps up with his werewolf, strength.
Yep.
Doing so, he drives his longsword up into the chest cavity of this creature, pushes his blade up along its throat, and then flicks the tip of the blade out along its jaw, splitting this creature's head apart like a banana peel.
Good lord.
For a total 14 points of damage,
Right.
with a triumph
Right.
and 2 advantages.
Good grief.
The advantage is that you don't get any of his blood on you.
Before I call the advantages and the triumph, does this kill it?
It does kill it, yes.
So, as it flops to the ground with its black bloody ichor pumping out across the deck, I'm going to spend my triumph to put a triumphant boot up onto its corpse,
Right.
then let out a bellowing cry and bolster the crew, and get them all to maneuver in and attack the last remaining creature.
Yep.
And potentially, they just swarm upon it and kill it and drag it to the ground.
Right. If you flip a story point, I'll allow that to happen.
You know what? I will flip a story point to that, because that is a good story
That
moment.
is a great
Yeah.
story.
Nice.
No,
There we go.
That's
absolutely.
fantastic.
Cool. So this last creature, it was obviously was trying to attack Jerrico, but the crew they have other ideas.
They throw nets over it and pull it to the ground. They start stabbing their infused weapons into it. And Jerrico, I imagine, steps up at this point.
Yeah.
Levels he's infused. What do you call your handgun?
Spellbound pistol.
Spellbound pistol into this thing's head and just pulls the trigger and just evaporates it into boiling Icarus steam.
Nice. And so the crew basically go, "For the captain!"
And
Gristlemore.
and Artemis will yell out,
For Calamity!
And the crew, "Hooray!" So, and then at that point, we fade to black as we know that you've managed to succeed at collecting the lightning which you were tasked to perform. You managed to make it out of the maelstrom, a little bit worse for wear, but you managed to get out of there successfully, having destroyed all of the storm ravagers, but managing to make it perhaps limping back to Lakeport laboriously, but all in one piece.
Except for one,
Yes.
which took me a little while to regain myself.
Your composure, so to speak.
Yeah. My corporealness.
And that's it. And that's it for the session. And there you have it. You've been listening to Chapter 1 of the second season of the Dice Pool Podcast live play series. We all here at the podcast hope that you've enjoyed listening to it as much as we've had creating it. So our crew, led by the Werewolf Berserker Captain Artimis Gristlemore, have successfully undertaken their first precarious mission into a lightning-infused arcane storm on behalf of their employer, a Foundation mechanic. Was there a reason the Foundation mechanic chose that arcane storm? Who is this individual anyway? And does he have a hidden agenda? And will Bonnie, our shade-touched sneak, ever feel whole again after her ordeal? Find out the answer to these questions and more when the Dice Pool Podcast Live Play Edition returns for Chapter 2 of The Night's Edge, Voyage of Calamity. My thanks go to my players Caitlin, Martin, Michael and Madeline. It literally was not possible without them. If you have any feedback on our setting or this episode, you can send us a review via iTunes, on Facebook, or send us an email to info@thedicepoolpodcast.com. I'm GM Hurley. Thanks for listening, and remember, the Dice Pool Podcast, where adventure is just a roll away. The Dice Pool Podcast is a proud member of the D20 Radio Network. For more information about the network, visit www.d20radio.com. The Dice Pool Podcast is a fan-generated podcast. All of the information provided on the podcast and related website are not affiliated with Fantasy Flight Games or any of their licensors. The content of this podcast remains the property of the Dice Pool Podcast and is intended for educational and informational purposes only. The GeneSys Role Playing Game, the GeneSys logo, content, and all material remain the property of Fantasy Flight Games.